Okay, thank you everybody for coming. We had several requests for information from students who have gone through the PT application process and successfully gotten in so that you can ask them all of your questions and help you on your journey to PT school. So today we have Johellen Balch and Brittany Harville and Kevin Ellison, all seniors, all gotten into PT school, so they're gonna share their secrets and then just field questions from you all. So do you want to do a little brief introduction and kind of where you're going?
Yeah, I'm Johellen and I'm from Nashville and senior in exercise science, graduating May. And I'm going to Belmont in the fall, and something a little different about my application process was I did early decision as opposed to the regular period, so if you have questions about that, I got you.
My name is Brittany Harville. I'm from Talladega, Alabama. I will be going to South Alabama, and I actually am graduating in 3 years, so if you feel really rushed, I can help with that.
Yeah, I'm Kevin Ellison. I'm from Huntsville. I'm going to Hardin-Simmons University in Abilene, Texas. And Joellen's getting married. I'm getting married. So if y'all have questions about like life things or anything like that, and I don't know, random stuff, feel free to. I'm graduating in a month too, so exercise science. Yeah. So.
Do y'all have any questions?
Can we like go through and say like your GPA and GRE kind of thing going in?
Yeah. So first of all, schools only look at your prerequisite GPA. They don't look at your overall GPA, so that's something to keep in mind. So just look at what their prerequisites are, and like I always calculated what my grades were as like with the prerequisites of the school. But I had a 3.7, and I made a 3.06 on the GRE.
And I'm not completely sure, but I think they look at some of them look at your last 60 hours too, and then some of them will look at your science GPA separately too, so it just kind of depends. But I have a 4.0, but I made like a 294 on the GRE, so it just kind of depends. Like, they don't just look at one thing, and that's just gonna like bomb your whole like being competitive. You know, they're gonna take everything into account. So even if like you may have done not as well as you wanted to on the GRE, but you have other things that make you really competitive, then you know they kind of outweigh.
So I was in chemical engineering my freshman year. Transferred out of that after my freshman year after going below a 3.0 and made like a 3.1 the next semester, and I took a break for a year. So I was at a 2.98 after 3 semesters, and then I have gotten like all A's since for the past 4 semesters, and the majority of those are my prereqs for PT school. So when at the time of application, I had a 3.35, I believe, overall, and my prereq was I think a 3.22. So pretty low. Now, I did get a 317 on the GRE. I'm just good at standardized tests. So, but schools definitely look a lot more at your GPA. They weight it more than the GRE, but I did like, I have always done pretty well on standardized tests. So that's your strong suit. That's awesome, but it's also good. It's not, yeah.
What did y'all feel like was like your best like quality that, or like the thing that stood out to like to other competitors? Does that make sense? Like what was your?
So I think mine, like of course GPA stood out, but also I had like way over 200 observation hours, and so I think that makes you look competitive. Because in a school, like most schools will like ask like maybe around 60 or so, and so if you're gonna have way more, that shows that you know not only have you been in that setting and you know kind of like what you're getting into, but you've not just spent time like just studying all the time, just school. You've also like spent a lot of hours in the setting. So.
Yeah, in as many settings as possible
Yeah.
too, with as many different therapists as possible. Yeah. I ended up with about 130 hours of shadowing experience, and I've shadowed everything from pediatrics to in a nursing home to in an outpatient clinic to a hospital outpatient clinic and just a regular orthopedic clinic. So a lot of different settings, a lot of different experiences, and so that was good. I also did undergrad research with a PhD student here, and that was really fun. And also, I took that gap year, and I think sometimes when people take a little different route to get to like the point where they are, that sometimes helps you stand out. So if that's you, then don't worry about being like odd. Just know that like just raises questions, and if you have good answers to those questions, that'll always be a cool thing to share with people, like during interviews or on your essays or anything like that. So, yeah.
Something, go
I
ahead.
would say for inpatient or acute care, where did y'all do that? Where did y'all shadow for that?
East Alabama Medical Center.
Okay.
Mhm. Unless you're in your hometown and over the summer or something like that, you can get a lot of shadowing hours there if they have a hospital. But EAMC, I was just talking to them before, we can give you contact information for Tony Sumner, who's the PT director there, or any other therapist that we've shadowed there too, because he'll make sure you can get that done.
You just don't want to wait too late because they can fill up really quick at the hospital. So just kind of, you could just go ahead and email him now, and then he would kind of refer you like, well, meet back with me at this time. But just try not to wait like too late, or everything will already be filled up.
One nice thing about that is therapists are there every single day because it's a hospital. People are having surgery every day, so they're getting people out of bed every day. You can shadow any day of the week, pretty much.
I did EAMC for practicum, and I was so busy last spring that the only day that worked was Saturdays, so I would go Saturdays for 8 hours and just shadow them. So they're very flexible.
Else? Keep going.
What kind of things did y'all look at when you were picking a PT school? Like what kind of things were you looking for in the school?
My biggest thing was location. I knew I wanted to go back home. So I looked up schools that were in Tennessee, and I loved Belmont. It's close. My family went there. So for me, it was more of like a home thing, but it also happened to work out that they have a good PT program.
Yeah, definitely, like, I guess you call like their statistics, you know, like how many get a job after completing a program, how many pass the test after completing a program. So that was like one big thing I looked at, just because you want to make sure, like, once you get out, you're going to be able to pass the test and get a job and everything. And then I also just kind of looked at the atmosphere, so that was like a big thing to me. I want to, because you know, you're going to be there every single day, a long time, so you just want to make sure that you feel at home and like you enjoy it while you're there. So that was big for me.
Big thing, like I mentioned, getting married. My fiance Emma's from Texas, so one thing that's like important to us is being like within a not a terrible day's drive of either one of our parents, just so that we can have that there. So I was looking mainly at schools in Texas and in Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi area. So I was looking at that. I was also looking at cost. Let's see. One thing that I'm really, really glad I did, and kind of similar to what Brittany was saying, was I visited almost all the schools I applied to. They almost all have open houses. Like, there was one day where I drove to Hattiesburg, Mississippi to visit William Carey, and I drove back to Auburn all in one day, and they're like, what? I was like, here I am. And that was cool because I got to see a lot of different faculty at a lot of different schools. And you can tell when some faculty care about their students and some faculty that are like more bogged down in the details of like running a PT school, and people who have it together, like schools that have it together, and then schools that are struggling. Like you can get the feeling from that, just like the way that they talk about the program and the way they run their like preview days. So that was also really, really valuable. I'm really glad I did that.
Yeah, that was a big thing for me. So when at 2 different interview processes, One of them, like, everybody was just so welcoming, and like all the current students were like coming up to us and making conversation and talking about their program and everything. And then I went to another interview the next week and no one spoke. I literally had to go make conversation. Like, it was very just like blunt, and you know, I'm just not looking for that to spend 3 years at. So that was just like a really big thing for me.
How many schools did y'all each apply to, and out of how many of those did y'all get into?
So I'm a little different because, like I said earlier, I did early decision. Most early decision schools lock you in, so you can only apply to that one school. And if you don't get accepted, then you're released, and you can apply regular decision to that school and any other school whose deadline is still open. But because I got in, I was locked in, so I didn't apply to any other school.
When did that open up?
So it opens up when PTCAS opens. I think the beginning.
August 15th.
August. No, well, it's due August 15th,
Yes.
but it opens when PTCAS opens.
And then you like heard back for early decision before you could start applying for the place?
I knew, so my interview was a month after the deadline for early decision. So the deadline was August 15th, and my interview was on September 15th. And then I knew a week later.
Do you think that would be hard? So say you did early decision, would it be hard to like apply and catch up to other schools? Is that late to turn in your application? Like, were you worried about that?
I was kind of just hoping I'd get in, and then I was gonna cross that bridge when I got to it. But no, most deadlines are December 1st, and since I was gonna know before September was over, did I say December? Okay, yeah, those deadlines are December 1st. And so since I was gonna know before September was over, I had plenty of time to recuperate and, you know, figure it out.
And something interesting, we Skyped with Belmont, with PTOT Club on Monday night. They received 70 early decision applicants this past cycle, and they admitted 41 of them.
Well,
So, and then they get 1,000 applicants each cycle. So they have a class of 48. So they filled 41 out of 48 spots with early decision. Mercer also does that. They received something like 35 applicants, something like that is what they said. And I think they admitted like 17 of them for a class of 38 or 40. So early decision, I mean, the way that the director of admissions at Belmont described it was like, that means that like you're actually bought into that program. So don't just like apply to, I mean, it makes you think like, oh, am I actually gonna like commit to this school if I get in? But it also shows that school that you're committed to that school if you do get in.
And so I remember I was in the PTOT club meeting when they Skyped Belmont last year, and she was saying, because you're locked in and because you make that commitment, they look at you not in just like a test scores and GPA, they look at everything because they know you're committed and they know that you want to go there.
gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
And two, like I said, I didn't really know that I was supposed to be applying yet since I was graduating so early. So I didn't even start on my application until like September, October. She can vouch that I was freaking out. But so like, I can't say personally that you would not feel really rushed because I didn't do early acceptance, but I also didn't start on my application until like she was finding out that she had gotten accepted. So
When you say application, are you talking about like the PT class?
Yes.
Okay, but you said they're due the 15th, so how did that work?
So hers was.
Yeah,
most
mine was.
other are
Oh,
due.
for Belmont, okay.
Yeah, most early decision programs are all due on the same day.
Got it.
Mhm.
But like other ones were due not until like November 1st or December 1st.
Got
So,
it, okay.
you know, I still have time. But I applied to 3 schools in Alabama. I got accepted in my first one, and then I got waitlisted at UAB, and then I just skipped my SU interview because it was just kind of like a backup plan for me. So
Yeah. I was planning on applying to 11 schools. I only ended up applying to 8 because I was still working on the applications for UAB, Texas Women's, and one others. William Carey in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Because Hardin-Simmons like extended interviews, offered me an interview for September 28th, and then they accepted me like a week and a half later. So I didn't apply those last 2 places because I didn't need to, but I got offered interviews at all other schools I applied to, I think except for North Texas. So 6 interviews total, I think. But
So you find out, like y'all were saying, you find out like a weekish later once you interview?
It depends on the school. Most schools are really good about getting back fast, but others have, so a lot of schools will have supplemental applications, or they'll have other questions on PT-CAS, but the ones that have like their questions on PT-CAS and a separate list of questions that you answer, those are the ones that typically take longer because they have to read through those.
And I know she has a friend that applied to ASU, and their process takes a lot longer because they have to do another essay during the interview process, like that day. So that they also have to like go through those. It's not just like scoring and everything else.
Her interview was in February and she found out this week. Mhm.
I know someone who just got accepted to Mercer this week. So.
Mhm.
It just varies. They're all different. And that, if I can also offer one little bit of advice, is like go and read through their website. Like know it, because they all have different prereqs, different deadlines, different applications for supplemental applications, all that. Like I could like walk you through the 11 schools that I applied to. I can like, maybe one that I just applied to. I could like show you where everything is because I knew it so well. So definitely do that. Know it inside out.
Yeah.
What would you recommend for like the PT-CAS? Like how early would you start? How did you go about getting recommendation letters? Just like any recommendations you have for that.
So one thing, you can go, like, it doesn't open. I would start on it as soon as it opens so you're not as stressed. But, so like there's like a few things though that you can already have like set out. So by the time it opens, you're not like scrambling. So like recommendations, you can go ahead and talk to those physical therapists and professors. And so by the time it opens, they can already have that done and you can send them the link and they can send it right in. Instead of waiting and then having to worry about if they're getting to it in time or not. So that's one thing that you can go ahead and like kind of have done or started on before it opens. And then another thing is the job shadowing. So you can, get a bunch of hours before that opens. So by the time that does open, you can send those links and they can sign off on that as well.
I feel like the biggest hassle of PT-CAS is you have to enter all of your classes in manually, like every single semester, so you don't submit a resume, you put in all of your activities and you just specify if they're extracurricular, volunteer, employee, all that. And that's what takes the longest, just because you have to make sure, okay, is this the right class number, is this the right class, is this the right credit hours, is this what I got? Like you have to be so in detail. And it's not that it's hard to do, it just takes forever and you get annoyed with it. So I say like the earlier you can start doing that, the better, because then you're not scrambling to finish it at the end.
Yeah, it opens July 1st every year. I think I submitted I did as like I finished my essays, I would submit them, but I think like I submitted most of my application.